So welcome everybody. I'm super happy that you joined. So yeah, let me talk about how payments can strengthen your business growth. That's the key title of the presentation. That's something that I'm going to speak about. And just to kick off, I mean, what we are seeing as Adyen and overall is a big shift that is happening in the retail world. I mean, in the old world, these were brands that were having the full control over the customer experience. It was the customer that needed to go to a given physical store, he needed to queue up, he needed to select the product only from the warehouse of a given store, and he needed to pay in cash at the counter. Nowadays, technology is changing everything. Nowadays, it's the customer that is in this driving seat. He's got a full flexibility of deciding when, what he wants to purchase. He's expecting this experience to be really seamless and flawless. And brands often are not able to come up with those trends and are not able to respond to those needs. Often the reason for that is about the partners that they work with. Often what we are seeing, especially in the payment space, is the fact that the players that are there often face a lack of functionality, flexibility, and innovation. It's because often they have been raised in pre-internet era with technology which is not as scalable as it needs to be. It leads to poor user experience. Also, what is quite apparent when it comes to the payments world is the constant process of mergers and acquisitions. Companies acquire each other, which creates quite a big issue of the old legacy of different systems that need to connect to each other during a standard, typical payment process. So that basically we might have a gateway that is a different entity and different function than risk management, acquiring, processing. What it does, it really creates a friction to each and every payment that is being processed. What Adyen did differently is that we decided to start over again. Adyen in Suriname means start again. I mean, it means creating something new. What we did, we decided to build the entire payments platform from scratch, whereby all the functions, so the gateway, risk tools, authentication tools, processing, acquiring, are based on one platform. What it gives us direct rails and connections to Visa and MasterCard, and it enables us to get the best performance at the best user experience. What's more, the same platform has been built for both e-com, mobile and offline channel, as well as what is super important and crucial is exactly the same wherever a given business is. So it's exactly the same in Poland, Czech, but also in whole the other world, in US, Australia, you name it. So yeah, just as a recap, I mean, we are one of the biggest PSPs nowadays in the world. We are the Dutch company with our headquarters in Amsterdam. We are listed on Euronext with quite a big valuation as of today. But importantly, we've got quite a lot of offices. I know that you guys are from different parts of Europe. And there are people from the Nordics, where we've got an office in Stockholm. From France, we've got also an office in Paris, as well as in Germany, in Berlin, and many others. So yeah, just feel free to visit us whenever you are in those cities. But guys, I mean, as you can see, even below, we work with quite a big brands all over the world. And based on cooperation with these brands, we learn quite a lot. We learn quite a lot about the commerce, about the user experience demands. And that's the reason why right now we want to share this knowledge. We want to share this knowledge with you about the best practices that are out there. And that's also the reason why we decided to be here and to present. But then we should also take into consideration what is happening nowadays. And we are in quite a tricky situation. Why? Because actually we are facing quite a big volatility on the market. You can see how the retail growth is fluctuating. You can see how high inflation is causing this dispersion between the retail sale measured in nominal and real terms. So that's a tricky situation that we need to face. We don't know how long this winter will last, but for sure that requires a lot of adaptation to the current market environment. That's the reason why I wanted to focus during this presentation on 4 principal areas. So the first one is about maintaining clients and how conversions are more important than ever before. Second is about the rising significance of individualization and local payment methods across the board. Third one is about omnichannel as the real way to get loyal customers. And then I will also talk about scalability and how, for example, by working with us, I mean Adyen and Sylius, you can really grow fast. Okay, so the first one, payments becoming invisible. And sorry guys for this pop-up out there, I have no control over it. As you can see at what time I've got my lunch out there. But yeah, you need to bear it, you know. But yeah, payments are becoming invisible. That's something that what we are seeing in so many different cases, but that is what is happening. When you take a look at the entire process of getting your client to this final stage of the checkout, again, you know it very well because that's what you do and that's what you work on heavily. You focus a lot on the IT stack, on the platform that you use, Sylius or any other. You put a lot of effort and money into marketing, whether it's organic or non-organic, whether it's social or any other channel. You develop and build product. You take care of the photos, of the descriptions, of how it is presented to the customer. You measure what this customer wants to have. I mean, you measure their preferences. And in the end, you really just want to make sure that his experience is the best as good as possible. So then, once your customer gets to this final stage of the payment, hey, I think you might think, well, that's a success. I mean, what can be wrong at that point of time? It should be just seamless. It should be flawless. Like, hey, everything should be fine. But actually, it's not. And on average, 1 out of every 5 payments fails. And these are the customers that already selected your product, already went to this last stage of the checkout, but they cannot finalize this purchase. And that's super important time because they are willing to give out your money to you. And if they cannot do it, what they will do, for sure, they might go to your competitor, which hurts you even more. And now, there are different reasons for this rejection. I mean, these might be technical errors. These might be wrong authentication. It might be about stability of the platform, which again, if it's composed from 5 or 10 different parts, it's not stable. There are many reasons for that. But the most important question that I wanted to give you is, do you measure your conversions? Do you measure your out rates? Because if not, then you might really lose those customers that you spent a lot of money to get acquired. And what is important, I mean, there are multiple ways how to optimize this percentage. You can really get 5% or even more of sales by using such tools as, for example, recovery of a given transaction, as auto-update of a given card that a client has used. So there are many things out there. So, I mean, measure your conversions, take a look at that because it's part of your business. Now, from the user experience perspective, that's something that there are big changes that we are seeing. I can give you an example of Blik, which is a Polish online banking method. I mean, it did not exist at all 5 years ago. Right now, it's up to 60% of the total retail market in Poland. What it shows? It shows that the market really changes quickly. And we need to adapt to this change, and we need to see this change. Nowadays, Blik often, Polish people can confirm, it's one of the 30 other payment methods. You need to type in this code, which is, this is the ideal flow. But normally, you need to get to 5 different websites and redirect until the time that you can really pay. That should not happen. Payments should be always embedded in a way and presented in a way that the most selected payment method in a given country should be at the top of your checkout. But hey, we also work with many different brands. Uber, I believe, is getting to the perfection of the flow. I can really order my Uber, and I measured that last time like in 10, 12 seconds, including payment. And guys, I mean, I believe that that could be a benchmark. I mean, that's the flow that you want to have. You want the payment to be seamless. You want the given user not to even notice that he is paying. You want the cards to be tokenized. You want to offer Apple Pay. You want to make all those things just for this payment stage to be as seamless as possible. Nike, another example of the merchant that is always trying to get interaction with you. They save your address so that you do not need to type it in another time. They save your preferences when it comes to payment. Again, super easy and super quick, something that you want to have. At Spotify, and that's my favorite app, absolutely, you do not even think about paying. That's the whole process of subscription or the recurring business. So it's just enough to authorize your transaction once, and then all the payments are invisible. They're happening in the background. I'm satisfied because I do not need to think about each month about payments, and Spotify is satisfied because they do not need to engage many resources to collect the payments from their users. Again, win-win scenario, and if you can, just think about adding recurring part of the business to your business model. Okay, so to sum up this part, always try to embed your payments without redirects. Embed it in the checkout process. That's important because each additional step causes friction and causes drop-offs. Payments adjusted to the channel, to the screen. Take a look at your checkout. Take a look how it looks like on your iPhone, on your Android terminal, on your Android telephone or iPad. It's important for it to be always adjusted to the screen. Apple Pay, Google Pay, authentication, that's another area, really huge one. The one that you can really optimize and get a lot of increased conversions because of that. But in the end, it's all about just to get the customer to return to your website and just to think about them getting back to your website. They can really select the product and pay easily. Okay, so the second topic, I think most of you, if you're not doing so already, you're thinking about expansion. You're thinking about going abroad. You're thinking about conquering other countries. That's something that is happening nowadays. We also support many brands. Here are Polish brands that we support. I mean, these are global nowadays and really accept payments from US to Australia. But looking at the market, I mean, already now, almost 30% of total market is cross-border. So it means that people tend to purchase goods that are sold by businesses from outside of their territory. You can see that there are some countries that are quite heavily penetrated when it comes to cross-border, like Nordics, like Italy, like Portugal, like Belgium, and many others. What you can also see, actually, which is interesting, that over 40% of this cross-border is generated by marketplaces. So Zalando, Amazon, ASOS. I mean, if you are having smaller business, you should really take into consideration that that's against whom you are competing. That the people not being able to finalize the purchase on your website might go to Zalando or any other just to get a better experience there. Even though you might have as good experience as those guys by basically using the integration that we can offer. But when I said that 1 out of 5 payments is declined, I did not even calculate in this measure the payments that did not even started. And if you guys go to a given market, like let's take example again of Poland, and you don't offer Blik, then a given customer goes through the entire checkout process, select your product, is happy with the description, but he or she will not even pay because the trust is minimalized, because there is no local payment method that I really know and want to pay with. So why to have local payment methods? I mean, often this is about convenience. With Blik, I mean, most of Poles are having banking apps, so it's super easy for them just to retype the code and pay. I mean, not sure if anybody from you is from Norway. Perhaps not, but again, when I was speaking with my Norwegian friend, he loves Vipps. I mean, it's super fast and easy payment method that is also growing as fastly the market share as Blik does in Poland. Sometimes it's the only way to pay. And you might think of Alipay, and that's also crazy about the Chinese market. They're even on a standard marketplace. I mean, somebody selling vegetables, will show you QR code that the other person will scan to pay digitally, to pay online with exactly the same payment method. China overall, I think, is a few years in front of the trends that are happening in Europe or in US. Or M-Pesa in Africa. There people are not banked, do not have banking systems. So they pay for payments using their telco provider, which is much easier for them because all of them are having mobiles. They need to pay for their telco provider, and they can also use it in digital payments. Sometimes offering a given local co-brand on the website can increase conversion. And that's the example of France with Carte Bancaire. You might process the transaction with MasterCard rail, or you can use Carte Bancaire rail. If you use the latter, it will give you at least 3 to 5% higher conversion. Then it's also about the cost. Sometimes it's simply cheaper to use some local payment methods, like SEPA Direct Debit, which costs you just 20 cents, or Girocard. One thing is true. I mean, there are many payment methods within each category. We discussed cards, we discussed local co-brands. There are also cash methods like Boleto and Konbini, whereby a given customer simply confirms the order online and then goes to his 7-Eleven to make the payment in cash. Again, something which is quite standard for their market. We've got wallets, WeChat Pay, Alipay, Apple Pay, and Google Pay. That's something which is super important. Online banking that we discuss, buy now, pay later. I mean, this market is really changing crazy fast. You've got Klarna, which is trying to conquer the European market, but you've got also One, which is quite typical for Spanish and French markets. You've got Afterpay or Affirm, but you have also Apple going into their own Apple Pay Later product. So quite a lot of dynamics in this front, and especially during this time of crisis when people are going more towards their savings or they need to get credits for the purchases, that's something which might make a lot of sense to offer just to get more traction. And now, I just wanted to briefly go through the map of those payment methods, so just a geographic view. As you can see, Europe is quite diversified. You've got some trends like Nordics with many wallets. You might have Poland and DACH region with more online banking. So many interesting dynamics that are happening there. When you take a look at the US market and Americas, again, US is heavily based on cards, but also buy now, pay laters are quite widely spread there. You could also see ACH or US debit networks, Brazil, Boleto that we discussed. Just wanted to show you the example of Asia. I mean, there it's absolutely normal to have on the checkout more than one payment methods, to have at least 5 or 10 payment methods, because those countries are so diversified. So it's absolutely normal just to offer them different ways to pay. And now, I mean, we've discussed local payment methods, so everything which is not card. Cards are still super important. I mean, you always need to offer them. I mean, not only Visa and MasterCard, you should also focus on other schemes like UnionPay, JCB, for the Chinese and Asian clients. If your ATV is high and your clients are also from US, you should think about Diners Club or American Express. Also authentication when it comes to this topic, super important area. And I mean, the card processing can also be optimized. I mean, by using, for example, local acquiring, you can boost your out rates, you can boost your authorization, and it's because the local banks have more trust when the acquiring is being conducted local. Also, what is important, local acquiring can lead to faster payouts. So again, from liquidity perspective, that's something that can give you access to the cash much faster. And what is also important, I mean, local acquiring can lower your costs, can lower your interchange and scheme fee. So think about that, because especially if you're a European company that is processing in US, I mean, you might, or Australia, as you can see on this example, you might pay a lot for the interchange and scheme fee, and that's the cost that you can optimize. So the more penetrated you've got those markets like US and Australia, the more you should focus on having an entity and do local acquiring with your payment partner. And then you may say, hey, I mean, it seems complex. So many payment methods, so many dependencies. And that's often the case, that some merchants are going country by country, making setup by setup, integration by integration. They are signing many agreements. And in the end, they end up with a super complex structure from the legal, compliance, but also reporting side. I mean, what we offer here and what, based on the experience of working with Zalando, H&M, and many others, is we really try to standardize this process. You might only have one connection, one agreement, and one basically reporting, which covers all of those markets. I mean, it's simpler. Why? Because, I mean, you can use once built API integration that you can just scale and copy-paste in other markets. And what is super important, you are having one reporting. So it doesn't matter if somebody paid with card, with Klarna, with Blik, or any other local payment methods. The reporting is aligned and is super easy to digest. Now, perhaps a case study of Facebook. I think it's also quite interesting how we began, because actually we began by working with those, quite tech-heavy brands like first Groupon, then Uber, then Facebook. And actually, because of those guys, we developed and grown all those local payment methods. I mean, they've been quite demanding when it comes to quality, when it comes to user experience. So thanks to those guys, nowadays we can really offer the solution that we built for every business out there. And you can have a quality of the checkout and of the payment methods as those big tech giants nowadays. So to conclude, what things should you take into consideration when going abroad in terms of payments? It's about the entity. Sometimes it might be worth to set up and open a local entity just to get local acquiring and to get the benefits that I talked about. Take a look into settlements. Take a look into FX. What is the FX charge of your PSP? Because that's also an important one, and you might actually invest quite a lot only in this area. What is the payout delay? I mean, do you get your money next day, in 5 days, in 2 weeks? Think about features and functionalities. Take a look at refunds, if full refunds are possible, partial refunds. Think if you can go into subscriptions. Analyze well the markets that you want to go for, because it's super important to know the dynamics that is out there, and you need to have a solution that is adjusted to this market. And then integration. I mean, once again, your integrations should be as good with any local payment methods in both desktop and mobile. So guys, are you with me still? I know it's a quite lengthy presentation. The presentation, I mean, I got 35 minutes. Normally attention span is 20 minutes, so I can believe that you are right now quite fed up. But hey, I think a few other stories that I wanted to share with you. So right now, actually, once we discuss UX and checkout, once we discuss local payment methods and going abroad, I wanted to discuss combining the online and offline channel. I think that many of you might also have the physical presence, so that you might also have physical stores. And looking at how the landscape looks like, often a given company is omnichannel, but then those channels do not really talk to each other. There are different teams that are overlooking and managing those channels. Overall, I mean, the experience is not the same. What we at Adyen tried to do after some time after the kickoff was also based on exactly the same platform to offer payments in a physical channel, so in POS. So right now, the software is also on our terminals. And what is important, there is only one API that connects both channels. So you've got real-time data access to payments from all your business. And that brings in quite a few benefits. So for sure, first, you can offer really flexible customer journeys for your clients. You can get meaningful insights about your client because you combine data from both channels. And then you can really take care of building a better rapport and better engagement of your customer because in the end, you can recognize their shopping patterns across the mobile, e-com, and physical channel. And again, perhaps a few case study. One is about endless aisle. So it's super important when I'm at Adidas store and I just walk in and I cannot find my favorite shoes or the size. What I can do an online purchase in the store with the shipment that is delivered a day later. And again, if you've got your stack built on the same platform, it's easy because you can accept payments on terminal for the stock that is sourced from your online store. McDonald's, another one that is going to the perfection of servicing the mobile app. What they do, they offer various customer journeys, like click and collect, reserve and collect. You can select the store by geolocation. You go to the store, you pay online, you pick up in store. Again, many fancy customer journeys, but also, as you know, they also use kiosks. So I don't remember last time when I bought my cheeseburger at the counter. I love those kiosks. And again, it's the combination of the online experience inside the physical shop. Some brands like Douglas, but also Rossmann, what they do is they go one step further. They enable you to use your phone to scan the product in store, to pay online, and just leave the store. So again, if we are just talking about the seamless of payments, seamless processes, that's exactly how it looks like. And again, it's a great solution for the shops that you purchase quite often at, because again, you can really minimize the time of entire journey. Then Barton, again, now I find quite an important hardware that I really needed. But Barton, that's another example of the store that is going one step further. They are going one step further with using just a mobile device to accept the payments, but also to service various customer journeys, to see at the stock, to check the warehouse. They've got everything within one simple device. It's not only convenience to the customer, because they can pay with their smartwatch or with a card on mobile terminal, on SoftPOS, but again, for the guys like Barton, it's super convenient. They do not need to invest in hardware. They can just have one single device that covers all operations in store. And then, payment data can tell you quite a lot about the customer, about who they are, how they purchase, what are the patterns, what percentage of these shoppers are omni-channel shoppers. You can really build profile of customers by connecting the dots, but seeing how they purchase things online, and then connect this purchase to the purchases offline, so the purchases in physical stores. And it doesn't matter if you use Apple Pay or card. You can connect those dots, and you can really create a nice profile of a customer and see what would be potentially their lifetime value, or how many purchases this given client did in all channels. And here the example of Nike. What actually Nike does, Nike, when it comes to loyalty and collecting points, they are not using any plastic cards. They are not using even their app to scan QR codes to get loyal customer. What they do is they recognize customers by card payment, so credit or debit card payments. So that each time that you purchase anything, you do not need to basically show anything. You just collect points. It's super easy, it's super convenient, and that's the future of loyalty programs based on what we can see and how it is grown. And then I think that if we just started with how payments are becoming invisible, then example of Żabka. Do you know Żabka, guys? Probably some of you not, yes or not. Żabka is Polish 7-Eleven, so a convenience store. What they do is they went into autonomous stores. What they offer is the customer journey that you tap your card, even without any mobile app whatsoever. You just tap your card, and after signing for the first time, each time you tap your card, the doors are opening, you go inside, you pick up the product that are being, just the basket is being created by the cameras that is out there, and you leave without any contact with anybody. Something that you might have heard of Amazon doing, but Żabka actually, when it comes to the number of locations that they grow, is one of the biggest merchants of this type, for sure in Europe and even globally. So that's the future of commerce, guys. I mean, for the process to be quick, to be seamless, with the payment to be invisible. Okay, guys, and to conclude, I think one of the most important things is to launch fast and to stay flexible to be competitive. And that's the reason why we are really appreciating the cooperation that we've got with Sylius. It was quite funny to see that, hey, I mean, I believe that Sylius noticed how many clients got Adyen as a solution. Adyen also started to notice that more and more of our merchants use Sylius for growing and building their web shop. Nowadays, we've got quite a lot of common clients. These are logos just of a few of them. Brilliant24, that was, yeah, I believe that there was a session even before that. So thanks a lot if there is anybody from this company for mentioning Adyen. We are really, we appreciate this a lot. But hey, I mean, nowadays we are processing 1.5 billion euro, so it's quite a good result. And hey, we expect it to be even more. And then perhaps just to conclude, what gives you using Sylius is the fact that you've got a ready plugin. So you do not need to integrate a given payment solution from scratch. You just use the plugin, which is super fast to launch. You optimize your current setup, but you've got also a range of features and functionalities. So when I talked about this whole stack, about retries, about real account updaters, about stability of the platform, about local payment methods and how you can add them from the customer panel, you get everything out of the box within this integration, so something which is absolutely worth going for. So guys, to conclude, I think that both Sylius and us, what we try to do is really try to launch fast and iterate. That's the DNA of our approach. So we are always on the top of the trends that are happening in the payments landscape and retail landscape. And what we are willing to do is always to share all those trends and to make sure that the merchants we work with are on the top of these as well. So thanks a lot for your attention. Quite a long presentation. I'm so happy that you're with me until the very end.